It's a wild world out there, but some worlds are even wilder. Hi, my name is Tyler Hapney, and you're listening to Dungeons and Dystopias. Thank you for listening.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Dungeons and Dystopias. I am your game master and host, Tyler Hapney. I have run hundreds of sessions of Cyberpunk Red and Dungeons and Dragons combined, and this podcast is a way for me to reconcile my thoughts on both of those systems. Today, we're going to be going back to Dungeons and Dragons and talking a little bit more about a specific area within the setting that I personally have a large fondship for. In fact, I'd say in terms of D&D cultural sort of zeitgeist, I'd say this location is one that's relatively important. I mean, when you consider it's used in a lot of campaigns. It's used in a lot of cultural, I think it's even mentioned in the movie. I'm not quite too sure, but at the very least I know it is heavily featured in the game Baldur's Gate 1, maybe even Baldur's Gate 2. I'm not too sure. I am talking, of course, about Candlekeep, which is a giant library fortress that is essentially a repository of knowledge and artifacts and sort of sacred books throughout the Forgotten Realms, and even maybe outside of the Forgotten Realms, as Candlekeep is known to maybe keep some extra planar books there as well. I mean, if there is a book out there that has some sort of knowledge, the people at Candlekeep are probably very interested in having a copy or the book itself within their walls. God knows, they've got plenty of books in there that are potentially extremely dangerous. And that's part of the reason why they exist, is to maintain this safety, I guess, within, all these dangerous books. And we'll talk about some of the books they have in there, right, later on. But for now, let's talk about what the heck is Candlekeep. And just before I get too deep into it, I do want to say a lot of this information is coming directly from Elminster's Candlekeep Companion, partly, I want to mention, it was designed by Ed Greenwood. So, I mean, the man himself. So, the information in this book is typically pretty helpful. It also comes with a massive map of Candlekeep that, if you're looking to run a campaign that goes to Candlekeep or stays in Candlekeep for any amount of time, you are definitely going to want that map. It is very high quality. It is very nice. I'm personally a huge fan of it. I just haven't really had an opportunity to really, use it. So, before we get too super deep into Candlekeep, there are 5 things to know that the book wants us to know about Candlekeep. For one, it is a repository of knowledge. It is the biggest library in Faerun. It has the most complete book collection. So just about anything you can think of, you're going to find there. Each year, hundreds of supplicants journey to Candlekeep, this is a direct quote, hoping to find answers in the Great Library. Afflicted with burning existential questions of purpose, the looming threat of an ancient evil, or simply an earnest, unshakable curiosity. Which is all really good reasons to have your players visit Candlekeep. There's a lot of, Candlekeep generally, I think there should be a Candlekeep session in a lot of campaigns if you're in the area or have an ability to go to Candlekeep, because there's a lot of research and lore and knowledge that can be gained from a trip to this library. Second thing you should know about Candlekeep is that it has very selective entry. You need to donate an entrance gift in order to even be allowed into Candlekeep. And what is this entry gift? Well, this is the big one. They need a fragment of writing that isn't already within Candlekeep. So they need a book that they don't already own, which is, could be a lot, could really be a lot. But at the same time, it could be like, oh, here's my grandma's classic cherry pie recipe, and she wrote it down in this book. I think that would, be noteworthy. Maybe. It's a secret cherry pie recipe, so who knows? But yes, it is, each gift is evaluated, and they interview you, and, if you, get in, you're in. You get access to all that knowledge, and usually you're only really able to stay there, I think, for like a week. You're really not allowed to stay and live in Candlekeep unless you're one of the Avowed, which, speaking of the Avowed, Who are they? Well, Candlekeep, this is another direct quote, is inhabited and maintained by an order of monks known as the Avowed. These guys are all about the knowledge within Candlekeep. They love to preserve it, and oftentimes are worshippers of Ogma, Denir, Melil, and Gond. Though there is still one other person that we need to talk about, and we will get to in a moment here. But yes, essentially the staff of Candlekeep, if you could call it that, the actual inhabitants are monks that are dedicated to the preservation and gaining of knowledge. And the worships that they are, or the gods that they're worshiping, definitely does reflect that. Number 4, Candlekeep is neutral ground. Candlekeep does not participate in political affairs. They don't care about the rise and fall of kingdoms, shifting governments, or claims of thrones throughout Faerun. Another direct quote. They only care about knowledge. So, hey, really, truly, they're dedicated to their craft. They're neutral as they can be when it comes to political situations. So if you're, Candlekeep happens to be in the middle of like an Am and Baldur's Gate conflict, then they're gonna be neutral. They're gonna serve both sides. Candlekeep is not immune to infiltration. Rarely are such invaders of middling power, and intruders either incomprehensibly foolish to challenge the Avowed, or they have honed their abilities for decades in pursuit of one targeted assault. So that's another direct quote. Think about it. I mean, either the people who are going to be trying to steal from Candlekeep are either really stupid or really talented. So just keep that in mind for if your players decide to try and hit Candlekeep. They are probably going to fall into one of those two categories. And for most people, it'll probably be number 1. Finally, and I mentioned this earlier, we're going to talk about this guy. Another extremely important thing to Candlekeep is Alondo. Alondo is a seer that arrived in 75 Dale Reckoning, and he brought with him such extensive, specific prophecies that they have been basically coming true for hundreds of years. This guy he's the Nostradamus of Forgotten Realms. So to the point where they are able to physically like tell kind of almost what might happen based off of, some of these predictions. And they're not exactly specific predictions. Some of them are pretty out there, kind of difficult to just transcribe. But it says here, direct quote, one notable prediction that has come to pass is the creation of the ball spawn during the time of troubles, which was foreseen in the following line. White birds shall vanish from the north, and great evil shall die and be reborn. Once again, it's a little vague, but of course, that seems to be where we are. And if you've ever played Baldur's Gate, these guys are cool because they sing pretty much everything. And they also have the amazing line, "So saith the great Alondo." It's great. But yeah, hey, Candlekeep. So let's talk a bit about the history of Candlekeep, because that's what's next. And there's a long history of Candlekeep. So we're going to be actually kind of skipping around a bit. But basically, it started in negative 200 Dale Reckoning, which is obviously before a lot of things went a little crazy. Dale Reckoning is, man, that's a whole can of worms you got to talk about. Basically, it is connected to, you never guessed, the Dales. And the Rising of a Stone, and a whole bunch of other things there. But basically, that's where we trek. It's like kind of our BC. It started with Lavralana Dree, a devout of Ogma, and Caitlin Forostaland, a light of Denir. And they went to a tower. They got visions of a tower. They were given these visions by their deities, and they went and obviously created these towers. They obeyed their gods and set to work on construction of the first tower. Once again, that is a exact quote. They hired local gnome masons and halfling carpenters under Oscalar Mallowstone and Lal Radi Halerin. And before the tower was complete, 2 wealthy clerics of Melil arrived at the site, and they were Avrela Talon and Rorla Delhantel. Very cool. So we've got basically just a whole lot of people starting to show up to this location because it turns out maybe uh Ogma, Dinir, Melil, and Gond might have been sending them, which is cool. So that sort of builds up. And then that's just kind of how it started, man. Like we don't really have any major lore for another over 1,000 years. So, uh, wow. Yeah, a lot of stuff. We've got Kalashite wizards in the Year of the Shield Tree. Several bands of Kalashite wizards attempted to infiltrate Candlekeep to steal secrets within its vault. They were destroyed, only to make a swift return in the Year of the Tomb. While the wizards were unsuccessful in their endeavor, the elaborate spells led to the death of the silver dragon guarding the Candlekeeps beneath Candlekeep, or guarding the heavens beneath Candlekeep. It's funny, Mirim, that dragon, still alive technically, still kicking in a way. Maybe a ghost dragon now, but still there. So just keep in mind, even though Mirim is dead, technically, Mirim isn't dead, technically. We've got the Iron Crisis, which would be, of course, Baldur's Gate 1, talking about Saravok and Chev and the actual Iron Crisis that he put through. There's a lot to go through there. I'd personally just look up a summary for Baldur's Gate 1 Iron Crisis online. Trust me, there's a lot going on there. But basically, that whole thing I mentioned between, that conflict between Baldur's Gate and Am, yeah, well, it's not exactly unprecedented. Let's just say that. The Iron Crisis was definitely a big issue. And of course, it was directly related to Baal, the god of murder, and the Dead Three, and all that stuff. Fun times. There was, during the Second Sundering, a confrontation at Candlekeep. The cult of Asmodeus assaulted Candlekeep to retrieve a foul scroll penned by the Lord of the Nine Hells himself. Pretty sure it's Asmodeus. The scroll, which was stolen and hidden in the Great Library by Mystra, contained compulsion magic of immeasurable power. These are all direct quotes. When Asmodeus learned of its whereabouts, he sent one of its chosen, a blue dragon named Valron, to penetrate the keep and fetch it. Valron brought an army of humanoids, doppelgangers, and goblinoids to the keep. With the help of a sizable number of adventurers, the Avowed raised the Great Shield, a word of incinerating white light that repelled the cult from Candlekeep before they could obtain the scroll. So, in 1485 DR, which I believe is technically 5th edition, it might be 4th edition, I'm not sure. But either way, some crazy stuff happened. And then lastly, over the past 20 years or so, primarily in the decade leading up to 1487 Dale Reckoning, it seems like the Avowed have been getting infiltrated. Now, this included God's spies on behalf of their organizations, Harpers, Moonstars, and the Shadowvar, which is definitely concerning. Powerful individuals such as the Seven Sisters. Obviously, this this weakened the integrity of the Avowed, and thus the entirety of knowledge contained within Candlekeep. Such subversions were dealt with swiftly and often violently, leading to a swath of destructive infighting within the library fortress. So yes, that is basically the latest event we have. 1487 DR, which by modern standards, I think we're up to like 1500 DR in 5.5e, because I mean, we were at like 1492 DR in 5e, so, you would think. But yeah, Candlekeep today, still about the same Great Library, obviously still dealing with the previously mentioned infiltrations, but hey, it's still one of the best places for learning and knowledge in the Forgotten Realms. And for that, we, of course, have to have our hats off to Candlekeep. So that's kind of sort of the story, mostly, of Candlekeep. It's a location of great knowledge. It is the Library of Congress of the Forgotten Realms. It's the Library of Alexandria here. We've got such knowledge that gods themselves are sending in agents to try and figure things out, or maybe even, I guess, maybe try and make some changes. Who knows? But all that's important is that this is such an important location within the universe that they hold some pretty intense things. And like I mentioned earlier, we talk about maybe one or two of these books that they have. And the one book that I've brought up before that I know they have is the Serenishad. The Serenishad is a book written by somebody that Cyric made write the book hundreds of times before they got it right. Basically, glazing Cyric. It's a false biography of this most narcissistic stuff you could think of, written by Cyric, and the essential power of the book lies within the fact that anyone who reads the Serenishad automatically believes the words inside to be true, which is very dangerous. That can convert anybody. I mean it. Literally anybody. The most devout paladin of, Helm or Torm could read the Serenishad and become a faithful of Cyric overnight. And that's terrible stuff. That has a lot of power. In fact, it showed how much power could be used in the Serenishad when it was read as in Candlekeep. And there was an attempt to basically convert the entire city of Candlekeep into agents of Cyric. Which, at the time was pretty big presence of Cyric in Candlekeep, but still, that was one of the things that led to its downfall, in fact. There's just a lot that had to go on with the this Serenishad. But basically, the way it ends is it winds up, of course, in Candlekeep. And it has been cast down into the darkest recesses of the fortress, down at the very bottom of the caverns, where Miram might even guard. And it's unlikely you're getting anything from Miram. But then again, people have been able to take her on in the past. It's not impossible to imagine that somebody might be able to get down into the depths of the Candlekeep and find the Serenishad after getting past its protector. And who knows what dangers could lie there. And that's why I don't understand why they threw the Serenishad down into a hole. Why would they do that? It's still recoverable down there. It's not a bottomless pit. I don't get it. You gotta keep it under better lock and key than that, man. But yes, that's one of the books that they've kind of got within their grasp. But of course, if there's any other majorly important books, there's a good chance that they are looking for it if they don't already have it. And hey, if your character happens to have it, guess what? You're gonna be allowed into Candlekeep for at least a week or so. Yeah, Candlekeep, a great, wonderful location. Personally, I like to use Candlekeep a lot if I'm doing like a one-shot. I don't know. There's a good chance I might do it around Candlekeep. There's just a lot you can do there. They suggest missions like going out retrieving books, researching knowledge in books. Like there's actual missions you can do that all involve sort of very careful scholarly pursuits in the sense that you are helping Candlekeep. So yeah, I would suggest using Candlekeep for any higher end, maybe more cerebral adventures where you want your players to think a bit more. I think personally it's definitely a very interesting location, and I've been almost fascinated with it ever since I saw it in Baldur's Gate 1. Just because I love the Seers, I love Alondo, I love throwing in Alondo prophecies into my campaigns. You don't realize, guys, I love it. It's so fun. But yeah, let's talk about our monster of the week. And this one's going to be a short one because we're already down to sort of our limit on time here. I want to talk. You know what? Let's talk about Miram. Let's talk about Miram the Silver Dragon, because she's got a lot going on. She's very friendly. Let's just say that right now. She is friendly. She also has her own Magic the Gathering card, as I understand it. So if you're into Magic the Gathering, you too can play Miram, the Ghost Dragon of Candlekeep. She is obviously statted out with Silver Dragon stuff, and she is also a ghost, so that could probably make it even harder to actually, do anything. Just for reference, her 5th edition challenge rating is 22. So don't even bother, to be honest with you. Like I said, if you can get past Miram, you have an opportunity of obtaining knowledge, or whatever they have at the darkest recesses of Candlekeep. But that presumes that you're going to be able to get past a CR22 Ghost Dragon that is definitely going to know you're there from the minute you enter, because it's Mira. And yeah, just keep that in mind. If you're running a Candlekeep campaign and your players want to go even deeper, there's a chance, in fact, a very good chance, that they're going to run into the ghost of a silver dragon that has been there for hundreds of years and just chilling. Yeah, Mira, fun character. She's very nice, she's very friendly, but also, meant to protect Candlekeep. So keep that in mind. That'll be it for us this week. Thank you so much for listening to me rant about Candlekeep, one of my favorite locations in the Forgotten Realms. And next week, we're going to be talking a bit more about Cyberpunk Red. I think the Night City book should be coming out here soon. You gotta hope. So if that comes out, we'll be covering it next week. If not, I'll find something else to talk about. All right. I'll see you around, and thank you so much for listening to Dungeons and Dystopias.